hungry. I'm hungry. I was
Good
extremely
evening,
hungry.
everyone, and welcome to Bridgewater College Admission
At our house.
Activities.
I'm hungry.
My name is Mark Griffin in the Admissions Office. My co-host here tonight is Dayton Carpenter, also from the Admissions Office. And we just want to thank you guys for taking an opportunity to come on and hear from some of our alums. We always talk about talking to our customers, and these are people who have come through our program to tell you all what they've got out of Bridgewater's campus experiences helped them in their professional and their personal lives. And so tonight we're joined by Andrew Grossnickel, Justin Pruitt, and Elizabeth Poole. And just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Make sure that your mic is on mute, okay? And if you want to ask a question, and we want to encourage that, we want this to be questions, I will be monitoring the chat. Send your question to me in the chat. I will repeat it and give it to our panel, okay? So at this time, we'll start off with just asking the panel member to kind of give a little bit brief intro about themselves.
I'm muted. I'm muted.
Hometown,
I have my
high
camera
school,
off.
and major in your graduation. So we'll start with Elizabeth. Go right ahead, Elizabeth.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Poole. I studied history and political science at Bridgewater. I also studied communication studies. Sorry, did you say high school or I?
Yeah, tell us where your hometown is from.
Okay, sure. I grew up in Winchester, Virginia, and I went to John Hanley High School, and I currently live in Dallas, Texas. But I studied history and political science and communication studies at Bridgewater. And I'm currently a teacher. I've been teaching for 5 years. I teach social studies. I taught in Virginia, and now I teach in Texas. I also went on after Bridgewater to earn a master's degree in secondary education. And I'll tell you more about that too, how Bridgewater really helped me lay the foundation of making sure that that was a really seamless choice, because that's not what I intended to study when I graduated from Bridgewater. So luckily I had a lot of people on my side to help me with that.
Justin?
Yes, thanks, Mark. And good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Pruitt. I am a 2005 graduate from Bridgewater College. Originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Went to Bridgewater, stayed in Virginia for a while. When I graduated, I went out to law school in Rhode Island, and then went back to the DC, Northern Virginia area to practice after law school. I was an international studies major. And I decided to continue in that path into law school. I can talk all about what that means later if you have any questions about it. Currently, I'm back in Nashville after having been away for almost 19 years. I'm an in-house counsel for HCA Healthcare, one of the largest healthcare organizations in the country. And we're kind of on the front lines of this whole pandemic, really all over in our hospitals all over the country. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to provide some information for you there too. But good to see everybody and good to be here tonight.
And Andrew Grossnickel. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry about that. Andrew Grossnickel. I'm from Frederick County, Maryland originally, and I went to Middletown High School in Frederick County. I majored at Bridgewater in business administration with a concentration in accounting. I also have a master's in accounting with a concentration in forensic accounting. And I am a CPA. I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I'm a partner in a regional accounting firm which has 6 offices in Virginia.
Great. Okay. Now you get to know our panel members. Here's our first question, guys. Alicia Bancroft, thank you for sending this message in, Alicia. What was the best memory you had at Bridgewater, and what is something that you would recommend for us as students? Elizabeth?
Oh, there's a lot of pressure going first. Okay. The best memory, I know this is so cheesy, but I really can't pick just one. But I think that really the best memory I have, and like when I think back of my time at Bridgewater, I just remember the excitement of like getting to know other people that were so different from me, but also so alike to me. And I think that's really one of the beauties of college is that you get to discover a lot of like extensions of who you are, and you get to really find that depth, but you also get to meet people that you've never interacted with before, obviously. But that's really the beauty, is you get to find and meet and know people. And some of my best memories are with those groups of people, and they become your friends, and you get to just know more about them. And I love that about college and just growing up in general.
Justin?
Again, I feel like a broken record because Elizabeth and I probably share some of the same sentiments. There's so many memories that are fond about the time I had at Bridgewater, but the one that comes to mind tonight was, I guess, my sophomore year at Bridgewater, maybe my sophomore freshman year. That was 2001. I'm kind of dated myself a little bit, but it was the year that Bridgewater went to the Stag Bowl. And we had an amazing football run. And at the time, the college was really developing a strong sort of sports culture. And we had this massive bonfire that we put up, and so many people in the school were there. And the camaraderie and the joy that just existed that night will forever be embedded in my mind as one of the best memories of Bridgewater. And there are so many others, but that's one that comes to mind tonight, partly because I think I'm longing to be around people. And that was one of the most vivid memories I remember from Bridgewater, where there were so many people together at one time celebrating this amazing sort of victory on, win for the Stag Bowl. So I think Bridgewater offers a plethora of those, and it speaks volumes that it's hard for me to decide which memory to talk about.
Andrew?
So, very similar. Whenever I look back at college, I just think about kind of the stupid things we did in the downtime at college. I mean, I have so many friends from Bridgewater that I'm still in close contact with, that I still get together with on a regular basis. And really, I think fondly about all the things that we shared at Bridgewater. But, Justin also kind of stole my other, more specific one, which, I'm a couple years older than Justin, so that was my senior year at Bridgewater. And my freshman year at Bridgewater football was 0-10. So I got to see, the full turnaround from, not winning a game my freshman year to going to the Stag Bowl and almost winning it my senior year. And it was really special, for, our, small Division III school to have the attention of being on ESPN and all the other, really cool things that came along with that. Just recently, a good friend of mine that was on the Stag Bowl team, texted a few video clips of the intro from Stag Bowl during quarantine. He was kind of bored and going through some old video clips and things, and it was just really cool to see, Bridgewater College being profiled on ESPN and, going into the game and all the excitement around campus, like Justin alluded to. It was a really special time at campus, and really, the college has continued on with strong athletics ever since that point, but that was really special.
Okay. Thank you. Allie Heckeroth sends a question in, and thank you, Allie, for sending the question. She would like to know, what was the major factor in choosing BC, and how did it play into your overall college experience? Elizabeth?
So Bridgewater ended up being the only college I applied to. I know that sounds crazy. It was the only school I applied to, and I really didn't feel the need to apply to any other college. So I really didn't give myself a lot of choice in that sense. I mean, I guess I did, but I just knew it was the right place for me. Growing up in Winchester, I knew that Bridgewater wasn't terribly far, and I really liked the idea that I was still away from home, but that I would still also be able to go home and visit when I wanted. So the proximity was a huge factor for me. The fact that it was a smaller school was a really big factor for me too. And then when I went to an admitted students weekend before orientation, I just felt with the campus, it just felt like a community. It was a small town feel, and it just really felt like kind of an extension of home to me. And people were so welcoming. And I actually met a professor at one of the college nights at our local mall, and I ended up connecting with her later, and she remembered me and like I didn't think that that's what college professors did. You know, I didn't really quite have the right idea, I suppose, of what college was like. I'm an only child, and I didn't have I didn't have older brothers or sisters to tell me like what college was like. So I had my idea of college from the movies. So I thought like I would just be kind of lost in this sea of people, and I wasn't, and that was really surprising and exciting to me. So that was a huge factor in my decision.
Justin?
For me, it was the opposite. I wanted to go as far away from where I was from as possible. I'm from Nashville, and I went to Bridgewater, which is about 9.5 hours, depending on traffic. And for me, you know, that was a big deal because nobody in my family left the state of Tennessee to go anywhere, let alone college. I was an overachiever in high school, and I visited Bridgewater for the first time when I was 15 years old to go to a leadership academy that they had in place at that time. And I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the campus, the people who I met during that time. And those relationships really made an impact on where I applied to go to college. I applied to go to Vanderbilt. I applied to go to UT, which is where my mom went. I applied to Hampton-Sydney. I applied to a few other schools in PA, but Bridgewater really stuck out because the relationships that I had formed at that camp that I went to, those are the same relationships that I had kept all through college and to this day still have as friends. And that's a long, long time ago to have created those friendships and for them to still stick around. And that really, for me, was the reason to go to Bridgewater, to have the prospect of a lifelong friendship form. And I could see that even as a teenager. And having that foresight then sort of was really cool. But, that's part of what Bridgewater does. It makes you see things in a way that you would otherwise not. And that was a huge defining factor for me deciding to go there.
Andrew?
Yeah, so, for me, I applied to several schools, and Bridgewater was always going to be an option and something that I would be looking at because I had some ties to the college with some family members, some relatives that had spent time there, a couple relatives that had worked for the college a long time ago. My great aunt lived in Bridgewater while I was going to Bridgewater, and she and her husband both had previously worked at the college. But really what the deciding factor that, came down for me, I'm an accountant, so it was about money. It was about the financial aid package. And, Bridgewater ended up being the cheapest option for me, considerably cheaper than University of Maryland in-state in Frederick County. It was actually cheaper for me to go to Bridgewater due to the financial aid packages that they have available. And I wasn't nearly the overachiever that Justin was in high school, and I still had a good financial aid package. So, that's the one thing that you all that have gotten this far in the process probably have found out is, don't look at just the sticker price of a school like Bridgewater. Dig into the financial aid package and find out, what the true cost is. And for me, it was a really great option and affordable option for me to go to school. So, again, I'm an accountant, sorry, but it came down to dollars and cents for me. So, but it ended up being an awesome experience.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we've got some other questions coming in. This one comes in from Mina. Thank you for sending this in, Mina. Are any of you alumni familiar with the Brethren clubs and groups or religious groups on campus? What are they like, and what is the community around the campus like? Elizabeth?
Yes, so I am familiar. I was not affiliated with the Church of the Brethren, but I would say that when I was there, I don't think I mentioned this, I graduated from Bridgewater in 2012. But when I was there, there were quite a few clubs and clubs and activities for you to do that were religious affiliated, but they were like, if you wanted to find them, they were there. But if that wasn't your thing, you could also just, kind of do your own thing in that sense as well. But the part that I had in that was I was a part of the choir with Dr. Hopkins on campus, who's not there anymore. But that was the affiliation that I had most closely with the Brethren Church, was singing in the choir. But so I can't speak to those specifically.
Okay, thank you. Justin?
I had no idea what the Church of the Brethren was, having grown up in Tennessee. There's not a lot of Brethren churches where I'm from. But when I went to Bridgewater, I quickly realized what it meant to be Brethren, and that it wasn't very far off from how I grew up from a faith perspective. I wasn't involved with any of the Brethren groups, but by virtue of having served on the student senate and being the student body president for a couple of years, I got really familiar with a lot of how the religious groups on campus operated. And in that vein, I felt like Bridgewater, even though it is affiliated with the Church of the Brethren, it encourages some faith introspection no matter where you fall. And the Brethren seem to really take that philosophy to heart and accept you no matter where you kind of come from. And I found that to be the case. At least that's how I remember it being, that everyone was very accepting, that even that you didn't have to be Brethren to be a part of their club. If you were just interested, you could be a part of their club. And same for the Catholic campus ministry, or the same for any other religious organization on campus. I think there was a general inclusion that permeated throughout the college, that if you were interested in being involved in those groups, you could. And I think, although it's been a while, that still is the case today.
Thank you, Justin. Andrew?
Yeah, so I grew up on Church of the Brethren, and actually one of my ties or kind of experiences pre-college with Bridgewater related to the Church of the Brethren. At that time there was an event called the Round Table event for the Mid-Atlantic District youth that was held at Bridgewater College campus, and so every year during my time in high school I would go to Bridgewater on that trip, and had a good time on campus for that event. But while I was at Bridgewater, I was not part of Brethren Ministries Club. Like Justin said, I know there was clubs for all a lot of different faiths, and I think that's even expanded significantly since the time that I was there, to be a lot more options of different types of clubs, whether it be religious or otherwise. And there's just a little bit of a little something for everybody when it comes to the clubs that they have at Bridgewater, and just a little niche that you can fall into, or just drop in and learn, like Justin said, just learn a little bit about something that gives you a different perspective on what you kind of grew up, whether it's faith wise or otherwise.
Thank you, Andrew. Another question comes in from Alicia. Thank you for sending the question, Alicia. And it talks about, as students getting a job on the side, would you recommend working on campus, or is it advantage to work off campus? Elizabeth?
Personally, I never had a job while I was on campus. I did work a job while I was would go home occasionally, and I was able to keep that, and I worked some over breaks and such. I did have roommates though that worked on campus and off campus. So personally, I can't speak to it, but I would say working off campus is a lot more of a challenge, just with timing and schedules. That's really up to you. Working on campus is just a totally different flavor of that, because there's a built-in understanding that you're not just you have other obligations as a college student. So I would recommend probably on campus, but I know there's regulations for that. So you'll have to look more into that for what you can be doing on campus and still make money.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Justin?
I was a poor student. My parents did not send me to college with a lot of money. If I was going to have money, I had to work for it. So I applied for the work-study program and worked at the old Alexander Mack Library my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, and my junior year. I put my time in, and in quarantine, I've had a chance to go back in my files and see Andrew, you'll appreciate this. I had some pay stubs from that time. I was making a whopping $5.15 an hour doing that job. And I thought it was beneficial because it gave me a chance to be in the library, to do some studying, because I needed to do that, but also to have a little money in my pocket. My senior year, I was able to go work for a law firm. President Stone, who was the college president at that time, had come from a law firm in Harrisonburg by the name of Wharton, Heiser and Weaver. They gave me an opportunity to be an intern there the summer before my senior year, and then I got to work there as a paid intern, making a lot more than $5.15 an hour my senior year, which was great. And you know, if you can fit it into your schedule, I would highly recommend you doing it if you feel like you need a little bit extra cash. And who doesn't need a little extra cash while you're in college for all sorts of reasons? And if you're disciplined enough, it works out very well. And but if you're not, and you already know that, stick with your studies, and the money will come later. And you know, call home often, because mom will certainly do pick up the tab.
Thank you, Justin. Andrew?
And so I did a little bit of work on campus. I think Justin might have got a raise because I thought I was only making $5 an hour. But I did accounting tutoring and held some accounting workshops for Accounting 1 and 2 students in the evenings, 1 or 2 days a week, and as well as some one-on-one tutoring. And then I also had the extremely thankless job of being a basketball referee for a season for intramurals, and that wasn't the most pleasant experience. Everybody else wants to be a ref, and I appreciate it. I think after that, I was a little kinder to the refs myself when I was playing, but you know, probably got frustrated every once in a while still. But much like Justin, I you know, between my junior year and senior year, I had an internship with an accounting firm in Charlottesville, and you know, that was facilitated by, you know, the accounting department. They, you know, brought that opportunity to those of us as, you know, potential places you could get an internship, and helped arrange, you know, contacts to interview for that. And I made $10 an hour there, and I thought that I had won the lottery, because all my previous jobs growing up had been, you know, the Sports Authority, which is now defunct, and a couple of restaurants and things, you know, making minimum wage, and that $10 an hour was pretty amazing. That summer, came back to campus thinking I was rich, and you know, but I strongly encourage, you know, no matter what field of study you are, it doesn't have to be, you know, law or accounting that lend themselves to, you know, traditional internships, but I strongly recommend, you know, that all students pursue, you know, a summer internship or some type of an internship or externship in their field of study. As an employer that is, you know, looking for applicants for, you know, positions with my firm, you know, having that real world experience is priceless. You know, to couple that with what you're learning in your classroom gives you an edge against a lot of your peers you're competing against. You know, whether it's an unpaid or paid internship in your field, you know, I really recommend that. Can't stress that enough.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we have a question from Ben. Ben, thank you very much. How well did Bridgewater College prepare you for graduate studies? Elizabeth?
Sure. I'm so glad you asked. And I really love that this panel, we all have such different experience with this. I think that it's really cool that we can all talk about different ways that Bridgewater prepared us. So long story short, I went to Bridgewater thinking I knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I think that a lot of you on this call probably have a similar sense. You're like, yes, I know what I'm going to do. Maybe you're undecided. You're totally okay. And I'm thinking ahead, and I hope I don't forget of my one piece of advice that I hope maybe one of you will ask. What's a piece of advice you can give a college student? So maybe I'll tell you that later. But so I went to college thinking I knew what I wanted to be. About midway through my freshman year, I was like, nope, changed my mind, don't want to do that anymore. And it was to become a teacher. You kind of know where this is going. And I decided I didn't want to be a teacher. And I then just decided to study something I was interested in, which is history and political science. And then I was like, oh, this is so cool. So then I graduated not really knowing what I wanted to do with my history and political science degree. There was the law route, which I didn't feel like was for me. And then I decided, I think I want to be a teacher. I'm telling you all of this because even though I dropped the education part of my major at Bridgewater my freshman year, I still only had 1 year of work to do to actually obtain a master's degree in education because I had such a strong foundation with the liberal arts credits in earning that master's degree in about, I think it was 18 months. It was 1 full school year plus summer courses. And I don't think I would have been able to do that with any other degree. It just was so nice to know that what I had done was not totally in vain, even though I went in with an idea, totally changed my mind, and then graduated with a different idea. And I was still able to accomplish that. And so the answer is Bridgewater very much prepared me. They prepared me in a sense that I didn't have to go through those basic credits that a lot of teaching courses require. So because they counted with Bridgewater's credits. So credit-wise, very much. If you're talking about in terms of like time management skills and other ways that graduate courses require you to think and do, also a huge impact. My professors challenged me more than I'd ever been challenged. I thought high school was hard, and then I got to college and it was like, holy cow, I had no idea that I couldn't write a paper. And I know that, you know, there are just so many elements that you don't realize you still need to perfect until you get into that situation. So it helped me in more than one way for sure. So I can keep going on about this, but I hope that might kind of cover the bases.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Justin, you went to law school?
I did, and Elizabeth has, sort of heard me say this before. And I think Alicia, I talked to you last about this in one of the panels, but to piggyback, I always thought I was the best communicator in high school. No one could speak like Justin. But when I got to Bridgewater, I quickly realized that speaking wasn't going to get me very far. I had to learn how to write too. And I got my first C- from a professor in the history and political science paper in big cap, all red on the first paper I had turned in with her. And that shocked me. No one had ever given me a C- like that. No one ever told me that I couldn't write a paper. Well, that professor did. And that was a critical moment for me because A, it told me that I had a lot of room to improve, and B, that this person cared so much about me that she wasn't going to let me skirt on because she knew I wanted to go to law school. She knew the requirements that I was going to have to meet to be able to make it in law school and to become a lawyer and be a good lawyer at that. So she invested in me, much to my chagrin, in learning how to write and making sure that I wrote well. And it wasn't just her, but it was every professor after that really decided to say, look, we know what you want to be in your life, in your career. You have to really take what we're doing here seriously in order to do those things and become what you want to be and be successful at that. So Bridgewater certainly gave me a host of things, but one of them that I think is worth hearing is the skills that I didn't have from high school in terms of the writing and knowing how to write technically. I got those at Bridgewater.
Thank you, Justin. Andrew?
Yeah, for me, I think it was the time management, the study habits. That piece is something that, Bridgewater helped build that, bridge the gap from high school to graduate school. In high school, there wasn't that much extra work that had to go in, for getting the work done. But when you get to college, it's another step up, and you have to manage your time. You have to find places to study. You have to figure out what works for you when there's a lot of other things going on, a lot of distractions going on. So, learning those study habits and time management helped prepare me for, getting my master's while at the same time working, 55, 60 hours a week at the same time. So, and that was key. And also, a little bit of what Justin alluded to, the writing part of it. I signed up to be in accounting so I could deal with numbers. I didn't want to write papers. So, unfortunately, though, Bridgewater, unfortunately for me, but in hindsight, fortunately, the liberal arts education requires you to, have a lot of different coursework outside of just your main field of study. So there's English classes and some of those other classes that I was required to take that made me do writing projects and reading, and writing projects really did prepare me, because my master's program was very intensive on the reading and writing, much more so than undergrad was. So, I had to write a lot of long papers, and that wasn't something I was as accustomed to in the accounting portion of my Bridgewater education. But a lot of the other, required classes at Bridgewater helped prepare me for being able to take on that challenge. Not that I enjoyed it still. I'm never really going to enjoy sitting down writing a 12-page paper, but, I was definitely prepared for it. Also, Bridgewater, definitely prepares you as well as any school for, getting into master's programs. Obviously, all three of us, have gotten advanced degrees. I have a good friend that went to UVA Medical School, got in no problem, doing awesome. So, there's no issues at all. In some regards, I think some of the professors in some of the departments, biology and some of the other ones are very good at helping their students get into some of those graduate school programs. So, Bridgewater, I think, does a great job at preparing students for advanced schooling.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Another question from Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. Does Bridgewater help you get internships, or how did it help you get jobs in your field? Elizabeth?
I'm glad you asked. So yes, definitely. Bridgewater, and I wouldn't even say it's so much the college, but I think you'll hear Justin and Andrew talk about just really the connections you'll make on campus. So I held an internship over the summer with the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation, and I discovered that internship through the former chief of police, Chief Paserno, who was at Bridgewater College for a very long time. And we had connected, and he was on the board of trustees for the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation, and knew that I was studying history and was really passionate about history. And I worked for them for a summer, and it was really awesome because it was something that I don't think I would have ever, searched online to I can't wait to intern at the battlefield. I mean, I don't think that was ever really on my radar, but I was so excited when it came up, and it was really the right fit for me because it was the right amount of exposure to just what the world of taking history to a professional level was. And it was just a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of really equally passionate people about that are passionate about history, but more so, it just really gave me that extra edge when I did go to start applying to these other programs. And it's a great thing to add to my resume and talk about. And it's something I even like to throw in there when I'm teaching about hey, when I did this at the Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation, and it's just fun. And it's a great way to really learn about what you're interested in and not interested in. Turns out the Civil War is not really my favorite era to study. However, it was still really fun. So I think Bridgewater can really give you the right exposure to different levels of what you're interested in.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Justin?
So Bridgewater today, I think, has an extensive network that you tap into as a student as well as an alum. I think I just updated my own alumni profile saying if anybody's in the Nashville area wants to come to Nashville area to do an internship, let me know. You want to talk and chat about some career options, let me know. And Bridgewater has done a really good job of putting together a platform for students and alums to be able to get to know other folks in our network, expand their careers. For me, went to work for a law firm my senior year at Bridgewater. That same law firm, after that year of internship, hired me to work as a paralegal because I didn't go straight into law school after Bridgewater. Side note, I didn't want to be a lawyer after being a paralegal. In fact, I did the law. And it wasn't until, I guess, 2 or 3 years after that experience that I decided, well, you're probably better off going to law school because this is sort of what you've been wanting to do for your entire childhood. But it was the people at Bridgewater who sort of encouraged me, even after I had graduated, to pursue what I had already wanted to do, despite having a negative internship experience, I suppose, just with the substance of it, not necessarily the internship itself. But Bridgewater has a whole, I think the moment you walk on the campus, you are given the ability to choose your own destination. And everybody there is assisting you in moving along that destination to go wherever you want to go. But you do have to be proactive. Jobs aren't just going to fall in your lap. They want to know what you want to do, and they're going to give you a way to get there, but you're going to have to decide what you want to do. And the college does a really good job at giving you those resources to get the internship, to get the interview for the job, and to connect you with somebody who is doing the job that you're thinking about doing. So the Bridgewater has the resources. Just know what you're gonna want to do, or think about what you're trying to do while you're there.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Andrew?
Yeah, so the accounting department specifically, they bring in a couple accounting firms usually to interview any students that are interested after graduate or during their senior year. They're looking for a job after graduation. They share internship opportunities with students that are interested in those, and so yeah, they were very integral in helping me get my internship that I alluded to previously between my junior and senior year of college. And 18 years later, after graduation, I'm still working for that same accounting firm. So, they definitely had a vital role in what has been my, career up to this day, and helped me make those connections that are still, paying dividends here almost 20 years later.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, here's a kind of a double question from Mina. Out of all the classes you took, which one do you remember the most and why? And also, if you had to describe the college in one word, what would that word be and why? Elizabeth?
Okay, this is where we really get kind of into the nitty-gritty. So I talk about this class probably more than I should because it's a little bit of it, like it's slightly disturbing content, but I took an entire class on the history of genocide, and it was fascinating. And it was an 8 a.m. class, and I could not wait to get up for that. I mean, I know it's a little weird. Okay, so it's tied with my second favorite class, which was British history. It was pretty much the entire history of the island of Great Britain. And those were tied for my two favorite classes. And if I could come up with one word to describe Bridgewater, oh gosh, I would say welcoming. I feel like it just is very warm. That could be another one. Those are the two, that's what I got for you. Welcoming / warm.
Great, okay. Thank you, Justin?
Man, with favorite class. So I recall, probably because I was an international relations major, and the international relations major at that time, I think it's global studies now, but at the time it was a sort of a interdisciplinary major with economics, history, political science, and sociology being the four main areas that you focused on for the whole major. So I was trying to do as many of those major courses during my freshman year as possible. And one of them was sociology, sort of the interesting study of people, right? I remember this class starting out on September the 11th, 2001, and going into that class on the day of that event and engaging in the most intense discussion that was indicative of every single discussion that ensued after that, the whole semester, on the study of people and just how people generally interacted. So Sociology 101 for me was a big, important class. It was a basic gen ed course for my major, but it was hugely important because of that moment that occurred before that class that sort of made that class that much more interesting, but also because the subject matter was really cool. And we had a really great professor who I took 5 other classes with while I was at Bridgewater, Harriet Hayes. And I think the word I would use to describe Bridgewater, I think I have to agree with Elizabeth, warm. Every memory I have of Bridgewater, despite the ones in the winter when, you know, it was beautiful and there's snow everywhere, and you're walking through the campus mall, even though it was cold, everything still felt warm. You know, I walked into the KCC, I got a warm, fuzzy feeling. When I think about Bridgewater now, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's just a really great, it was a great time, not just because it was college, but because I had so many great experiences there. So I'm going to second Elizabeth and say warm.
Great. Andrew?
So most memorable classes, both of my most memorable classes were interterm classes, which is, you know, just a month-long class that's 3 hours long during 3 hours or so long during January. And the first was baseball and society. That class, I heard baseball and I thought, you know, this is going to be a really easy class and it's just about baseball. Well, I forgot the and society part on there, and it ended up that, you know, we had to, you know, learn about what was going on in baseball and how that reflected things that were going on in society, such as Chicago fires and other things. And we had to, you know, going back to my lack of love for reading and writing, we had to read several books in that 1 month and write papers. And it, you know, it was very interesting, but it was very different than, you know, what I had anticipated. But there was a great highlight at the end of the class as a growing up in Maryland again, as at the time a Baltimore Orioles fan. You know, we got to take actually a tour of Camden Yards at the end of that class. We all went up in a couple Bridgewater vans and got to tour the warehouse, which is, you know, the big warehouse that's there in the skyline of Camden Yards. That's actually where a lot of their business, you know, offices are. And we got to go down to the field and the dugout and all that kind of stuff. The other class, another interterm class, was personal finance. That wasn't, you know, a standard like business department class. It was an elective, and I thoroughly enjoyed that class. I think that every high school and college student should have to take a personal finance class. It taught a lot of practical things about insurance. You know, various types of insurance and things, ones that people don't think about, like renter's insurance when they get out of college. It taught about, you know, retirement savings and just a lot of other things. And again, me being a numbers guy, being an accountant, I really enjoyed that class. And, you know, I still have that personal finance book on one of my shelves, either here at the office or at home, and refer to it occasionally for looking back at some of the things I don't work with every single day.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
And the one word would be family. For me, would be what I think of when I think of Bridgewater. Again, you know, the friends that I made there, you know, I consider family, really, when it comes down to it. So I feel like the whole campus had a family atmosphere. When I was there, you know, President Stone was the president, and he was very hands-on. You know, he'd remember kids' names that he'd only met once and remember something about them. He had an amazing memory, and everything that I've experienced with the current president, I think that legacy continues on of that family atmosphere at Bridgewater. I know he has a lot of different student groups over to his house on a regular basis for different occasions, whether it's sports teams or, you know, clubs or other groups of folks, and that's, you know, just continues that warm, welcoming, you know, family type atmosphere that we've been talking about.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, we have a young lady named Trinity on here tonight. Trinity's from New York City. And thank you, Trinity, for sending this question. She says, she hasn't been to campus yet. I'm mostly afraid I won't have similar interests with students from BC. Am I wrong? Elizabeth?
I read that question just a second ago when you sent that chat, Trinity. The short answer is
No, yeah, it's 750 something.
the short answer is yes. I do think that you're wrong in a good way. I think that you will be really surprised with what you find at Bridgewater. And I think that it's probably really scary for you to be in a totally different atmosphere, and there will definitely be a little bit of a culture shock, but I think that you will find, I have no doubt that you will find people there to connect with. And I think that you will find maybe a part of yourself that you didn't even know existed, and you won't find that you'll find that in college in general, but I think that Bridgewater has such a nurturing environment that it will really not feel like you're totally alone. I think you will be really surprised, and I encourage you to come with an open mind.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Justin?
Yeah, I do think that Bridgewater, Virginia, Bridgewater College is going to be a very different experience from you in New York. Having been in New York probably every year of my adult life since Bridgewater, I can tell you that it is remarkably different. The smells, the people, the food, the valley, it's a whole culture shock. But it's a culture shock worth having. Coming from New York, you probably have a much broader perspective that folks who might not have ever been in New York, who go to Bridgewater at the same time as you, would benefit from. And there might be people at Bridgewater who have traveled the world that you might meet, that you would benefit from knowing them and sharing with them their experiences. I guess the long and short of it is going to college at Bridgewater really slows things down, but in a way that allows you to really experience life in a bigger way. I think the lens that you put on at Bridgewater allows you to see the world differently. Even though you're living in and may have grown up in one of the most metropolitan places in the world, there's still a perspective that you gain by having gone to a place like Bridgewater that you would otherwise not. And I think that it's certainly worth that discomfort to try it out.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Andrew?
Yeah, as Justin said, it will be different. I love New York. I'm extremely disappointed that my wife and I may have to not go to our usual Labor Day weekend trip here, depending on what progresses with the COVID situation. But I think that there is a wide variety of students that go to Bridgewater for various different reasons. We alluded to some of them today, but sports and other reasons, they go there. It really makes campus have a very diverse feel to it, and there's a lot of people with vastly different interests and things to do. And in some regards, to just kind of look at it from a different angle, it can be a little easier to find folks with similar interests on a smaller campus than it can be on, say, University of Maryland campus with 50,000 students. It's easier to kind of get lost in the masses, and maybe a little bit harder for you to connect with those folks that might have some similar interests to you. But like we alluded to with the different clubs and activities and things that are going on at Bridgewater, I think you'll be able to find the people that have some of those interests, and you also may develop some other interests that you didn't really know that you had or that you've never been exposed to before going to Bridgewater. So I think it'll be fine. You have to be a little patient. It does take, at some times, for me, it took a few months to really, settle in with some really good friends that I found. My roommate my freshman year went home every weekend, and I was staying there. And, until I met some good friends, that was a little difficult, a little challenging, but, just kind of hang in there, and eventually, you'll find those connections and those friends, and it'll be great.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. We're going to wrap up now, and I'd like to remind everyone that the survey link Dayton sent you is there in the chat. And also, if you're going to head over to the Zoom trivia link, you'll need to click on that, and that means it'll start just a few minutes. But we'd like to thank everyone for joining tonight. We will have a recording of this if anyone needs to look back over it. We really thank you Elizabeth, Justin, Andrew, and all the participants for sending your questions in tonight. And we hope you had a great experience, and we look forward to working with you. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
This was fun. Good luck, everyone. Thank you.